the Gransberry Chronicles Weekly Pick'em. It's week 8, just about the halfway mark of the season. I'm back off vacay. You know, I don't have that sunny swag anymore, but I still got that G-Girl swag because Gransberry is the grand champion of all women on the show every week. So, before we get into it, we know that B-Pat on your left for those that are watching us, and D Jones on your right. And we want to thank all of our listeners who are joining us as well. It's time to get into these games. And look, last week, still was rough for the state of Texas as it comes to football. But our favorite team's on a bye. And we not saying bye-bye, baby. We still there for you. It might just be looking like bye-bye playoffs. But at the same time, we going to grind it out. And D. Jones going to get us started with those games I'm sure everybody wants to get out the way. D. Jones, tell us what's up.
All right, this week's get them out the way picks are Carolina over Atlanta, the Rams over Miami, Kansas City to beat the Jets, Green Bay to beat Minnesota, Tennessee to take out Cincinnati, the Chargers to beat Denver, and Tampa Bay to take care of the Giants. We all picked the same picks, so let's get those out the way. Back to you, T. there.
Look, I know everybody is probably going to be like, what's up with B-Pat on this next pick? Because it's his favorite team in the AFC South to root against. It's Indy versus Detroit. They're on the road. They're headed to the Motor City. You know what? It's a little chilly right about now, but it's an indoor stadium, one that I have had the pleasure of visiting on Thanksgiving. Then again, we play there again on Thanksgiving. But B-Pat, I know you want to tell us who you're rooting for.
Well, Detroit made the trade with Dallas for Griffin. I'm going for Detroit.
Okay. D. Jones, talk to me.
All right, Indy is a 3-point favorite here. I just don't have faith in Detroit just yet. I think to me this is a coin toss game, so I'm gonna keep it in the division. I'm gonna say Indy takes the victory on the road.
My original thoughts would be with you, D. Jones, but the thing is, sometimes that river dries up, sometimes that river overflows, and you just never know. And he is more unstable than the Lions at home. And I know they struggle to win big games at home. I've benefited from some of those games,
Yeah.
but I'm going to trust that this river is not what it's about because Detroit is about the lakes. So, river versus the lake, I'm going to give it to the lake. And so, I'm going with Detroit. I know that's more than all of you probably really cared about, but so what? I told you anyway. So, let's move to the next game, and that would be Vegas versus Cleveland. Cleveland is at home coming off a terrible loss to one of their wide receivers. They will no longer have OBJ for the rest of this season. But I'm going to say Vegas on the road. What's up, D. Jones?
I think this is going to be a close game here. Cleveland is actually favored by 2.5. So I'm thinking they're going to feel the loss of OBJ this week, and I'm going to go with Vegas, even though I'm kind of shaky on that pick. I think Vegas will show up. They've been pretty competitive most of the season, so I think we'll go with Vegas. What you say, Coach?
This is one game I kind of struggled with, but because Baker finished out his great, thing from last week with the completions. But I am going to go with Vegas on this one because I think the loss of OBJ is going to hurt them. Everybody's going to start doubling Landry now, and I think the Raiders are going to sit up there and load up on Hunt on the run game as well.
So I want you to be very careful about using words that start with G. So when you start talking about that great, I mean, didn't they play the Bengals last week? The rookie? That what?
It's a
Yeah,
Okay.
division game. That was a
Anyway,
division.
division
It was a close
game.
hey,
division
It was
game.
it was a
it was
close
division
game.
game,
Thank
so
you. So stop
it is what
using
it is.
words like great. Just say
It
it
was
was
a
a
field goal
good one.
game.
Yeah, it was your field goal game, but who did you pick to win?
I mean, let's be
Oh,
honest
okay.
too. The rookie ain't been playing like a rookie,
Hey,
so
No,
we got to
I
no.
give
was
that
going.
boy some
We,
I was
credit.
I
going
don't.
with the rookie. I
I
was going
know.
with the rookie.
First of all, I don't have to be honest because I was the one riding the rookie train. It's B
Yeah.
Pat that tried to join with me, and I'm still. I never said he was gonna play bad. It's just the
Mhm.
collective effort. They've had injuries
Yeah,
on defense, and that's significantly hurting them.
that's
He's
hurting.
having to
Yeah,
throw too much. So when you get this further in the season, it starts
And
getting
that
cold.
offensive line. Ooh, Lord.
the line
Well,
is
it just
terrible.
it just becomes we can't really say too much about lines, but at the time the accumulation of things, it's just harder for him to get a win. Whether or not he's gonna play well, that's not my doubt. Which is
Yeah,
why I was rolling with him in the beginning. But I gotta look at you gotta round out the whole team when you start trying to pick who will win.
gotcha.
So it is what it is, and I wish neither team well because they're both in the AFC, but somebody's got to win. So our next game is another good division matchup, and it's New England versus Buffalo, and of course it's in Buffalo. Now we know New England is familiar with the cold. Cam is a little familiar with that being, he used to play in North Carolina. But at the same time, he's coming off one of his most horrible performances to the point of being benched. And I'm just not really sure that this is his get back right game. I definitely don't anticipate another three turnover game from him, but I think that Buffalo is still more of a cohesive unit. Their play action is looking way better than New England's at this point. So I'm going to go with the home team on this one, even though I like picking Belichick on the road. This is not one that I'm going to do it. So since I'm not taking the coach, I'll ask the coach first. Who are you taking?
I'm taking New England. I just think Cam is going to get a bounce back game, even though it's Buffalo. But just think Belichick is going to scheme up against Josh Allen.
I think
Okay.
this game is going
Would you
to
say D
actually be.
Jones?
I'm saying that I don't think it's really about Cam. I think Cam will have a decent game. Buffalo defense is really good, so I think they'll be prepared for Cam. I don't think he's going to have a great game, but I think New England's issues are beyond Cam. I think the lack of talent that they have on defense with all the people that opted out from COVID is finally starting to catch up with them on that side of the ball, and they having a hard time really putting a complete game together. So in this, I'm picking Buffalo.
I agree. And I think it's important to note that, there's this whole Belichick versus Brady thing still going on, and everyone's using records, and they're forgetting that, you know, Brady plays one position. So he's playing the same position. He only has to play that position well. And whether or not they win will be an accumulation of things, if he can remember what down he's on. But Belichick has to actually account for three parts. He has to account for offense, defense, and special teams. And it's really hard to be competitive against good teams if you don't have a defense that keeps the other offense limited or off the field. And we personally know about that. And so experiencing it more right now, you kind of have to understand that you're right. Cam will have a bounce back game, but even with a bounce back, or extra beat as D Jones just happily let us have tonight, you find yourself sometimes on the out with a loss. So D Jones gonna take one for the team since he
My
tried
bad.
to add an extra soundtrack to the show tonight.
My bad.
So we're gonna move on to our next division matchup. So we will be benefiting from some good division matchups this week since quite a few teams are on a bye. And so another matchup would be San Francisco versus Seattle. Now, I don't like spending much time on Jimmy G under any circumstances, no matter who the opponent is. But in division games, it's hard to say who will win. It's really about edge control. And at this point, Seattle's at home. A tough turnover in overtime for Seattle to take a loss last week in another division game. And so I expect more from Seattle collectively, because how many games will we see, Russell turn the ball over 3 times? I just don't anticipate that being a pattern for him. And I'm more my optics tell me Jimmy G is gonna struggle more than that, especially if they can get Adams back on the field. I don't think they've really said if he's going to, play this week, but they have, I think they made a trade with Dallas earlier this week on
Cincinnati.
defense. Cincinnati. Okay,
Yeah.
my apologies. I know it was a DN, right?
Yeah.
So basically, they're beefing up their
Yeah,
defense,
Dunlap.
and so Dunlap. Sorry about that. And I think that will help them. So that's anything on defense is extra for them at this point. So they've got offense pretty much secured. I mean, whew, Decaf just kind of blew our minds last week. And I
Yeah.
just merged his name all together just then, but it don't matter. He merged down that attempt at a pick six. I mean, it's gotta hurt your feelings when you can see the goal line in front of you, and then all of a sudden you just taken down.
Yeah.
But that was great. So me personally, I'm gonna roll with Seattle. I know I gave a long spiel on that, but I like Seattle. So Seattle for me, I don't cheer for them in the same way you do, D Jones, for Green Bay, but they are my NFC team. They
That's
they
your
are my
NFC crush.
That's my NFC crush.
We'll
It
call it a
is
crush.
the city, everything. I'm just crushing, and then Metcalf is not helping. Like that play last week is just making me fall, more in love with their ability to just draft folks that turn into special talent. Lockett. I mean, this isn't the first time they've just like had us like eyes wide open at players. So,
Yeah.
D Jones, what you take?
I'll keep it simple. I already told you how I feel about Russ after week 1.
You're not
So
picking against him.
I ain't picking against Russ. Even though this is even more than a division game. This is a rivalry game. Shout out to my boy Bronze, who was a diehard 49ers fan who I know watches the show. But I can't go with them boys this week. I'm riding with Russ. Coach, what you got?
It's going to be a sweep, Seattle. I just don't see them losing 2 in a row, especially after the type of loss they had last week. And the 49ers are kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. One week they look great, next week they don't, so I just don't think they're going to pull this one out. I think Seattle's going to pull this one out.
Ironically, I don't think it's a day. One week the quarterback looks safe. The next week it looks like they're not sure. And I say that meaning because they change how much passing he does in the game. That's play calling. So I think it's them too. Some weeks they just rather not depend on him, and some weeks they do. So they game plan changes a lot.
Yeah.
So that to me says they still don't know which way they really headed. And that's they're still
Well,
bragging
on
about
the
he
flip
doesn't
side,
lose 2 games in a row. So
right.
what? Go ahead, B.
Well, also on that flip side is that their running backs are injured too, so they're having to depend on Jimmy a little bit more than they probably want to. But I just think Seattle's they found something in Carlos Hyde last week, and then Seattle finds a running back and gets hot and gonna be able to run their offense that way. So
Well, we're going to head up 45 North since only one team in Texas is playing this week. They're both actually struggling. Dallas allowed a football team to basically allow them to only score a field goal. And that's your field goal game in a weird kind of way, B Pat. But we know there's some serious offensive changes for them. Andy was also, suffered a concussion during the game. And so at the end of the day, it's still probably going to be an Eagles win, for me. That's my take. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see because the defense for Dallas has been struggling, and for them to say, "Oh well, we're not really going to worry about staying stable to fix our defense," they're going the other way. That was kind of surprising to me. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. D Jones.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Philly on this one. This is to steal coach's term. This is going to be some feel good medicine for Carson going against this defense. They've been able to perform the last few weeks, and going against Dallas defense, I don't see anything changing there. And Dallas is just struggling on both sides of the ball. Have we heard if Andy's okay to play this week? I don't know. They could be on this third string quarterback. When Andy went down, the offense was already looking a little anemic. But once Andy went down, that was over and done with. So I think this is pretty easy to say, and I'm gonna go with Philly. Coach, it's on you.
So, Coach, before you answer, I would like to say that, from my understanding, they have signed Cooper Rush,
Oh, he
and
was with them before. Okay.
right, and so are planning to, and so if that's the case, that tells me Andy probably is out this week.
Yeah.
So if I don't know if that confirmation came through, but that was the news I heard earlier, and I think BPAT is telling me yes, it did confirm that was happening. So BPAT, I'm gonna let you get to your pick, but I just want to update D Jones on that. I think Andy is a no go. Brandon.
Oh wow. In that case, I'm gonna go ahead and go with. In that case, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Philly. Um, I just think Philly's just going to. It might be an ugly game. It might not be an ugly game, but I just don't see Dallas pulling this one out. I really don't.
Well, we're going to move on out of Texas, and we're going to head on to our game of the week. All right, now another division matchup. It's Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. The guys definitely went with Pittsburgh last week, and I was solo with Tennessee, and I took a L. But you know what? It was two good teams that I thought would battle it out. Somebody didn't show up the way I wanted them to until late. This is one of the few times that them close games in the fourth quarter actually didn't go Tennessee's way. But Pittsburgh is on a roll. They are undefeated. They're headed into Baltimore with great hopes and highs because everything's clicking for them, as we said last week. So Baltimore, they're still playing a good team ball, but they're a little bit more shaky on offense too. They keep changing up some things, and at this point, I think Pittsburgh knows their game plan in and out every week, even if on the road. So I'm going with the Steelers for the game of the week. Good old Pittsburgh. I'm giving it to you. D Jones.
Okay. Not that I'm against you in any kind of way, but I'm taking Baltimore.
Take it.
I
Take it.
think I think this Pittsburgh, the last undefeated team, will go down this week, and the
Okay.
guys in Miami will pop their champagne as they normally do. I think that if this being at a division game, they know each other very well. I think this is going to be a clash of the Titans type situation here. I'm not going to call it a field goal game. They're a 4-point favorite. Baltimore is a 4-point favorite. I think it's going to be an excellent game to watch, especially early in Sunday. But I think Baltimore will get their running game going against that defensive line against that Pittsburgh has. And I'm going to say that Lamar is going to get rolling a little bit in the air as well. So I think
Okay.
Baltimore will come through on this one. Coach, it's on you, buddy.
Um, I'm going to pick Pittsburgh in this one. I'm still going to ride with them. I rode with them last week, and they jumped out to their big lead, and then Tennessee came back. I just feel like that this is one of the best Pittsburgh teams they've had in the last 5 or 6 years. Um, Pittsburgh has got their game plans rolling, and Baltimore. I'm still trying to see some sort of offensive consistency from them as well. And it's a division rivalry. Both teams hate each other. I'm going with Pittsburgh.
So one thing I'd like to note as while we're talking about the game of the week, if if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that this defense, this core unit defense for Baltimore has seen Big Ben because he didn't play last year and he sat out the back half of, I want to say, the year before that, right? Because
Hmm.
that's when he decided uh I don't think he played the whole season or he was hurt
Right.
one. So this is the first time he's played them in a couple of seasons healthy. If more than anything, if he did play him, he's healthy now,
But that
which
goes
is
both ways.
well,
He hasn't
yeah.
seen he hasn't
He
seen
hasn't
them
seen
either.
them either. But I mean it is Ben. Has Ben looked like he been out the league for for a
It is
season?
it is Baltimore D. They don't rebuild, they reload.
Yeah, yeah. This is true. This
They
is true.
definitely reload.
They
I'm
definitely
just saying.
reload, and we know you already picked Baltimore. We're not asking you to change your
Oh,
pick,
I won't change.
but
I'm flying solo on this one.
oh, you can fly. You
I
can
just
fly.
increased my lead. I'm good with it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm never gonna be in last place. I am the first place lady
Oh, okay.
every week.
Sure.
Remember that.
Sure.
Remember that way.
You play that card. You play that card.
It's who name on the show,
who
like
name
you say. Who name on the show? It's the car we going with.
who that
But
who name?
oh, guys, I'm so glad to kind of like be at home and back with you guys. It's so awesome. Really, really, B Pat, really. Look, so we want to tell you guys some exciting news. Next week, we're going to actually shoot live. It's going to be a little bit of a longer show because I plan to give out one of Deshaun Watson's books on live show. Okay, on the live show. And I'm going to decide the terms of how I give it away. But you have to actually be watching us live to win it. Okay, you cannot win it on replay or once we load the show. So look forward to that. And, kind of exciting. We have 1 week until voting is over with. Less than a week, actually, but I'm so excited because the numbers and the data are showing that everyone is voting in record numbers in counties and states, that to numbers they have never seen before. And that means the message is getting out and being delivered. And so, again, I want to remind you, if you have not voted, please do so to avoid long lines and issues on voting day, November 3rd. But I am totally, totally, totally excited about moving forward for all elections and everyone, and being a part of the process. As a lawyer, obviously everyone thinks that all lawyers are either somehow tied to criminal law or politics. And actually, it's not that we're tied to politics, but what people fundamentally forget is that everything involves the law. And so even when you say, let's keep politics separate, guess what? CBAs are rules or different agreements that are made using lawyers. The laws that allow you for taxes, laws. So everything, your driver's license, laws. The FCC to use these social media platforms, laws. So whether you want to admit it or not, we're all tied to one another. And I want to make sure I get that message out there that I love you for voting. And if you're not, I'm not really sure I have love for you. I really can't say that. I could be honest about that because I just don't get it. But, I have to move on. And Brandon is going to tell us where you can find him on social media before we leave.
It's Coach B Pat about Twitter and Instagram. Please remember to vote, exercise your right, and remember our ancestors did it for us.
Well, thank you, B Pat. And then my boy D Jones, won't you tell the people where they can find you?
All right, you can find me on IG at djones9804, on Twitter at datboydjones. That's DAT boy D Jones. Holla at me.
And as always, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Gransberry. And the new addition that I hadn't really mentioned, you can find me on TikTok. Side note, my line name in college was Tick Tick Boom, but we don't have enough time to go into why. But you can find me on all social media platforms as the Gransberry. Look, and every day, 24/7, the Gransberry Gridiron Guide is available for you at thegransberry.com because I want you to feel good and have you some feel good medicine when you watching the game and you unsure about the red flag versus the yellow flag and first downs. Look, I got you, girl. Gee, the Gransberry got you with the Gridiron Guide. Pick it up anytime. I even sign my books, baby. So, look, as always, catch you next time.